We have a lot to cover on this page. You can title it Diencephalon, Brainstem, and Cerebellum. Okay, so the diencephalon, the first region that we'll cover, you have to make your circle no bigger than that. Hopefully you can see that okay. You don't want to go any lower down because then you start to get into the midbrain. So then you can use your blue pen for the thalamus. The thalamus is the relay station. Relay station for sensory and motor information. For example, your eyeballs are right here, and when you see something, it sends action potentials to the thalamus and then back to the occipital lobe. So that's a relay station. Or when you feel something in your finger, an action potential will come up the medulla oblongata and go through the pons and then up to the thalamus. And then where do you think it will go? If it's sense of touch, it's going to go up to the postcentral gyrus for processing. So there's a lot of different kinds of relays that occur here. Let's take a third example. A motor movement is initiated from the motor cortex and then specifically in the precentral gyrus. And an action potential would be sent down to the thalamus, and then another one sent down the spinal cord, and then maybe out a motor neuron to move a hand muscle, for example. Okay, and now let's use yellow for the hypothalamus. You might remember that hypo means below the thalamus. I'm going to use black for this one. The hypothalamus, the second part of the diencephalon, has a whole slew of roles. I'm going to do my best to both simplify but also flesh it out for you. Oops, sorry. So one of the main ways that the hypothalamus has so many of its actions is because it controls the pituitary gland. And the pituitary gland is right here. We call it the PG, pituitary gland, and causes hormones to be released. And those hormones control the reproductive cycle, especially with the hormones. We'll learn more about these next quarter, but there's something called follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone and prolactin and oxytocin. So all of those regulate different aspects of reproduction and taking care of a baby. So prolactin helps you make milk, oxytocin helps the milk come out, FSH helps an egg get ready for ovulation, luteinizing hormone helps the egg actually be ovulated. So that's how the hypothalamus can control reproductive cycles, is by telling the pituitary gland when to release a variety of hormones. That's not all it controls, though. It also controls growth and repair of your cells, primarily through a hormone called growth hormone. It also, the hypothalamus also controls the pituitary gland's release of hormones that regulate your metabolism. Releases thyroid stimulating hormone, which then causes the thyroid gland to release thyroxine and ultimately then controls your metabolism, how quickly your particular cells burn energy. There also seems to be signals from the hypothalamus that are very important in regulating your appetite and fat storage, etc. The hypothalamus also contributes to stress management. Releases a hormone called ACTH, and that's an adrenocorticotropic hormone that affects the adrenal glands' control of cortisol release and aldosterone. So because of that, it indirectly affects your cortisol levels in your body, and also your water retention. As you might know, when you get stressed out, you retain more water, and that's because this hormone causes the adrenal glands to secrete another hormone that makes you hold on to salt in water. Sliding right behind that would be another important job of the hypothalamus, which is a water balance, and this ties right in with blood pressure regulation. And that blood pressure regulation happens because the hypothalamus modulates the brain's, the medulla oblongata's controls of vasoconstriction and heart rate. That's HR stands for heart rate. Maybe I better write that out for you. Okay, so let me explain this a little bit more. The medulla oblongata, which is right here, in fact, we could go ahead and put that on there right now. This allows your heart and your blood pressure to be maintained without you ever worrying about it. But if you get stressed out, or you're excited, or you're very, very sleepy, then the hypothalamus influences, modulates and influences the normal functioning of the medulla. So let's go ahead and use a purple pen right here. Medulla oblongata. It has cardio-regulatory centers, and those control heart rate and force of contraction of your heart. It also has vasomotor centers that control vasoconstriction of arterioles, and therefore these three dots like that mean therefore, and therefore control blood pressure. So your medulla can do it all by itself. Let's say the hypothalamus wants to go on a vacation. Well, don't worry about it. The medulla's got you covered. It's going to make sure heart rate stays what it needs to be so you can, get up and walk around and not pass out because you don't have your heart going fast enough. It's going to keep your blood pressure maintained what it needs to be. But if there's any sort of frontal lobe processing and emotional center processing, the hypothalamus will then tell the medulla, hey, look, I don't care what you're thinking, you need to go faster right now. Or, hey, look, I don't care what you're thinking, you need to slow down right now. So it has absolute override. So for that reason, we call it the CEO of homeostatic balance. Okay, I want to put one more thing on here that the hypothalamus is important for, and that is it's your body's thermostat. So if you get a fever, it's because the hypothalamus has turned up your thermostat, and your body feels it needs to be hotter. And so you might shiver, you would feel cold, which would prompt you to put on more clothes, and then you would raise your body temperature to develop a fever, which theoretically will help fight infection. So your own body, your own white blood cells, or pathogens may produce chemicals called pyrogens to raise the thermostat and make you shiver and feel cold. And that word pyrogens means fire starter. Okay, and then there's actually one more function of the hypothalamus that I'd like you to put onto this list, and that is sleep cycles. They're not completely controlled by the hypothalamus, but certainly it gets a say in that. So along the side of all of this, right here, you could put, it's the CEO of the autonomic nervous system. So I wrote CEO of autonomic nervous system. Sometimes it's called the CEO of homeostatic balance. Okay, and then the last little part of the hypothalamus, or sorry, of the diencephalon, is the epithalamus. We'll just put this right here. It produces a hormone called melatonin from a little part of it called the pineal gland. The round part is the pineal gland. And it's released in the dark and makes you sleepy. So ideally you make more and more melatonin as the evening wears on and you get sleepier and sleepier, and then in the morning you're not releasing melatonin as the light hits your eyes, and then you're more alert throughout the day. Alright, now we'll go up here, the top, and we'll devote this side of the page to the brainstem. I guess to recap, you might recall then that the three parts of the diencephalon are the thalamus, the hypothalamus, and the epithalamus. Actually, I think I will start another video for the brainstem. This one's getting a little long already.